Hello and welcome to Creating Online Courses for Unity. My name's Sam and I've got a special guest that I'll introduce who's recently created an online course, and we're going to talk through the process of how and why you'd create an online course around the Unity game technology. So Unity itself is a versatile game engine. It's most popularly used for games, but you can use it for all sorts of other things from architecture, automotive, creating game prototypes, other types of apps, many things. It's something that I've been focused on for many years. Course creation is something that is quite new to me, but I have created a couple courses. And one of the benefits about offering courses to your existing audience, it's a way to make sure that you learn and understand as the industry changes and stay abreast of different changes, and then also be able to offer that to your audience. You can help build your own portfolio as a game developer by contributing online with, for example, creating YouTube videos. It can also become a revenue stream where you can sell your courses on online platforms such as Udemy. So it can begin to be a new way for you to get into game industry and continue to contribute there. So as course creators, my guest and I are going to talk about what our process is like, and we'll take a look at a few examples of Unity courses that were created and launched recently. So let's take a little bit of a moment here to introduce each of us. My name is Sam. I am a Unity certified game dev. I've got over 20 years of game dev experience. In the last 5 or 6 years, I've transitioned now completely to being a teacher of game development, whether I do client work or create my own online courses, as we're talking about today. My goal is to educate and entertain with interactive technology. I've shipped tons of different AAA games using Unity and some other technologies before that. But as I mentioned now, I'm available for remote contract hire in education. My link's there, and I'll put links below for anything that we see on screen here as a link. So my guest today is Omar Balfaqih, and he is currently located in Turkey. Omar, hello, and please introduce yourself.
Hey, Sam. Hey, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Omar Balfaqih, and I am a Unity developer, consultant, and certified developer, and recently became a part of the Unity Insider program. And over the years, I've been doing a lot of games with Unity and doing a lot of contract work with other companies, developing games for them and interactive projects. And recently, the last 2-3 years, I think, I've switched completely to focusing on the filmmaking side of Unity and made some in-game cinematics and filmmaking related stuff with Unity, because it's the passion that I have before even game development is storytelling. So now I finally combined these two things.
Very cool. Very cool. Welcome. So this video series is part of the Level Up Africa program. So I'm from the States. I'm not located in the States these days. I've been in Africa for a couple of years doing a lot of training on site. I'm currently in Kenya, and next week I'm going to Tanzania for the next months to the capital city to do some training there, also on the coast. So Omar is not in Africa either. He's in Turkey, as we mentioned, but this is part of training, just bringing new ideas for how to get into game dev and how to build your portfolio and your revenue in game dev. And since I'm focused in the Africa continent, a lot of my audience is here. So welcome here. I have a link there. You can check out lots of other videos that focus on everything around Unity development and also some specific interviews with game developers here in Kenya and around Africa. So we're going to do a little overview of Unity itself, the industry, the technology, and then we'll jump into Omar's course. So Unity is part of the games industry, and the games industry is huge. One of the unique challenges I've seen meeting game developers here and aspiring game developers is that throughout Africa, there's a prejudice against the game development industry, like it's not a serious place that you could build a career. Now, I've experienced a bit of this in my own career coming from the States, but nowadays, especially in big cities in the States, a lot of people understand that this is a big and serious industry. So I'm here to spread the word that as people are using their hard-earned dollars for entertainment these days, we can see here in this illustration that a super big popular activity is engaging with video games above all other activities like watching television and other types of online content. The game development industry's growth is huge. So this stat is from last year, but you can see that globally in the African continent and in the Middle East together, there's almost 8 billion in revenue. Larger areas like in North America, where the industry's got a lot of history and longevity, we're getting up to $60 billion in industry in total revenue for annual growth. And also, I just read that it's projected that next year, the games industry will surpass $1 billion with a B, US, for the first time. That is, even today, this year, more money gained than the movie industry, the music industry, television, and books all combined, like dwarfs all of that. So it's a huge industry and it's growing. In the developing world, like here in Africa, there's double-digit growth in game players spending money each year. So it's an especially interesting area for mobile game development, which is the device of choice in this region. Deploying games here, you can find a big audience that is growing fast. So Unity, as one way that you can contribute into that industry, is a tremendously popular engine. So when you're sitting down to make a game, typically you choose to create your own engine, or these days you take an engine off the shelf. Some popular engines include Unreal and Unity. My focus has been in Unity for over 10 years. I'm a huge fan. So Unity is used for over 70% of the top 1,000 mobile games that come out these days. And also it is a chosen technology for VR and AR development, as well as console, PC, etc. So quite confusingly, Unity is the name of the tool that you open up and you work in all day. It's also the name of the company. It's also the name of their services. So Unity has a few names, but anytime someone talks about opening up the Unity program, that's called the Unity editor. So it is used in a lot of different industries. As I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, games is where my focus is, but we can see here that architecture, automotive, construction, engineering, and film are big. So since Omar mentioned film before in what he's interested in, Omar, tell me a little bit about how you became familiar with Unity and how long you've been using it.
All right. Well, that started quite a long time ago, almost a decade. So I started when I was a kid with 2D animations, and I was really interested with animations. So I started with Micromedia Flash, which is now Adobe Animate. And over the years, I kept asking myself the same question again, instead of how cartoons are made, how games are made. So I started doing a lot of research online and went through a lot of different solutions and frameworks that it's only coding. I tried UDK, Unreal Development Kit, until I came across Unity back in 2010. So, and I just liked it because it's straightforward. You see the editor here, you see the end results here. You want to create codes, you just create a script, instances, and you just drag them into the project. And it's very straightforward. And there were also a great community out there, and I learned a lot from the available resources out there. And ever since, I've been using Unity till today. So, and focused on a lot of different things as well, starting from games, and ended up now with technical art and cutscenes and cinematic and short films.
Now, I've seen, as I focus more on the game end, some of the key technologies that have come out just in the last couple of years, which I believe would really apply to film, would be like the cinemachine, way to set up cameras, the timeline, which is a way to sequence different camera edits, as well as vfxgraph and shadergraph. So now seems like an amazing time to use Unity for film, because years ago we didn't have those subsystems, which seems so important. Do you agree with that?
Yes, exactly. Like none of that is like, even talking about the UI. If you wanted to add like some UI stuff on it, you had to use the GUI or the GUI method in like scripting. You had to do the ratios yourself. So these are like huge improvements, and especially with the timeline, cinemachine, the stuff you've mentioned. It's really great, and it has a huge potential that not a lot of people are talking about enough, because the amount of stuff you can do with it, the transformation of or exporting and importing Olympic files into Unity, and the amount of stuff you can do in real time, it's just like crazy. And now
That's awesome.
recently they're doing a lot of stuff with the skin and hair rendering stuff. So yeah, it's a great time to use Unity.
Super cool. So from a game development standpoint, which is my area of expertise, there's a lot of different systems that are offered by Unity as a game engine. I usually focus for beginners on these fundamentals. So if your game, for example, we can see in the screenshot, has animation, graphics, audio, some sort of user input like the gamepad or touching the screen, and then UI, as you're an aspiring game developer and you want to create your first projects, focusing on those areas is a great place to start. You can tell a complete game story with just those technologies. But there's much, much more. Unity has, let's say, 50 or 100 different areas you could go into, some of which I list here as kind of the next biggest list of different technologies. So, Omar, based on what we're looking at here, which I know is not all the features, what are some of the ones that are important for doing film in gaming?
Well, yeah, it's like the list already says a lot, and it's almost all of these are really important. But it's like if you're talking about filmmaking, I would say the VFX graph to create the explosions and a lot of cool VFX, the graphics with the HDRP, you could do a lot with it, and shadergraph, and also the animation and AR and VR. I'm not talking about AR and VR as a final medium or a final output. I'm talking about it as using it to capture motion, to help you in the creation process of films, because like even some big directors, they use Unity to create previs or to create the camera positions with VR and AR technologies. So basically your team can build up the entire setup, the blocking of the scene, and you can use AR and VR to capture these things, and the director can put on the headset or even their mobile devices or tablets, and they just capture where they want to place the cameras, and that helps a lot.
It's awesome. Now, in addition to those features which come out of the box with Unity, there's also some optional services. The distinction between a feature and a service, it's a blurry line, but typically features are things that are local inside your game, and services connect to some sort of back end. So some of the services that you can plug into Unity are listed here. Now, if you were thinking about making a course for a big audience out there, what's an area that you see here would be interesting to create a Unity course about?
Well, I think multiplayer is one of those topics that no matter how many courses out there, because the technology is advancing so fast. So every time you see a multiplayer course out there, there's still new tools out there, new services out there that makes it even easier, or a bit of changes. So I think multiplayer is one of those topics that will never grow old, because if anything, now it's the time where even a lot of multiplayer games are out there, and in terms of players and in terms of technologies, both are growing. So there is a huge potential and demand for multiplayer courses.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've been playing with some different multiplayer technologies as well, both Unity's solution, which is offered by the first party company themselves, and then there's maybe 5 or 6 third-party solutions built by the community. Some of them are free to get started, some of them are for pay, but they're becoming more and more easy. One of the really nice things about Unity is that you can build tools using Unity for Unity. So the editor itself that you open up can have new windows that enable you to do things more easily. And recently I was playing with a multiplayer package that really took advantage of that and made it feel really nice and drag and drop. So super cool. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about game development industry jobs. So as Omar mentioned, he has a background doing Unity consulting from a game dev side, also doing some film work. I've been on the game dev side and doing more teaching. So those are just some of the things that you can do as a game development professional. So I found this great list, and I've spread it over a couple screenshots here so that we can take a look. So often people who are outside of the game dev industry, they think that the only job, or the first one that comes to their mind, is being a programmer. So that would be under the kind of game dev section here. But there's also all sorts of different types of artists that contribute to the project, as well as game designers who conceive of game mechanics and team up with those other talented people to create the game. But you can see we've also got other ones that you might not think about here. Moving on, there's tons that are even beyond the production team, people that organize events and marketing around games, having competitive playing events as well. And then here in this last page, on this monster list of different jobs, is education as a concept. So that's something that is close to my heart in what I do for my job. It gives me a lot of sense of purpose, and there's a lot of great applications for being able to contribute as an educator in the gaming space. So per the topic that we've got here, talking about creating your own online courses, either to give back, to create community, to build an audience, or to sell a product, there's lots of different ways that you can learn just enough about a topic and tell your story to other people. YouTube, obviously, a popular channel. That's where this video is going to sit primarily, as well as some other social media. But there's lots of different ways that you could put your video content within a larger online course, such as some different online platforms. So we'll talk a bit about course creation, like what is it like to make a course? What are some, just from a high level, some of the planning steps involved? And then we'll take a look at a couple real courses that you can both be inspired by, as here's how we made these courses, as well as if you're interested, you can go and follow up and actually take those courses after completing this video. So let's take a look here. So from a very high level, when you're creating your own online course, you want to take some of your skills, passion, your experience, and whatever your target audience is, and blend those together. I would also take a look at what else, let's say you have an idea in mind, like I want to create a multiplayer course, as Omar suggested. I would look out and see what other multiplayer courses exist. See what their marketing is like, see how popular those courses are, begin to study a bit about how those courses are going. As Omar mentioned, these courses need to be updated quite regularly because the technology changes fast. So if you're able to find a topic within game dev that matches this formula and maybe doesn't have a big enough audience being served yet, then you could bring your course to market there. So in the course creation process, one of the explanations of the process I found is in this image here. So Omar, tell me a little bit about your course, just to start. We'll get into it, but what's it called? What does it go over? Sentence or two, and then follow up this ladder here and tell us a little bit about how you conceived your course.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Well, the course is called Unity Filmmaking 101. So basically, the name suggests the course topic and what we're focusing on. It's about filmmaking with Unity in 101. It's like basically for beginners, whether they have background or not in Unity or filmmaking. It's like in that blurry line in the middle between these two fields. It's for those to jump across different fields. So basically, if we start, I'm going to talk through these steps quickly. The audience, it's for those who are either actual like live action filmmakers, they want to test the waters in the virtual world. This is a good start for them. Or the opposite side, they're game developers using Unity and creating games, and they would like to add some cinematic sense to their games and adding cutscenes. This is also a good start for them. And also for those, as I suggested earlier, like directors could use to create previs and animatics instead of a boring storyboard. You can use that in real time, change the lighting, do whatever you want with such methods. And then and this is basically the course topic, to focus on Unity filmmaking and starting from the beginning and going through, taking them step by step to create what is basically the learning objectives. It's like to finish the course and feel comfortable with the Unity's timeline, understanding the basics, how to get stuff from outside, and also to tell your own stories, not necessarily whatever we do in the course. So it's basically a three-step process in the very generic way: getting comfortable with it and understanding the basics, and then creating a showcase video, just like to play the cameras, as if you're doing a showcase video for an environment or an asset that you could see in the asset store or an early level. when playing games, and then combining all that we learned together into a 1-minute short film. And that's basically the main planning and objective of the course. And this is like the storyboard for it as well. That's the basic steps that we want to take. And then the host, there are a lot of different options out there, whether you create your own, use a service, or go to like a well-defined marketplace like Udemy and Skillshare and so on. But I decided to go with Thinkific, and I created the content over there, back and forth planning and creating the topic, the content, and recording and editing. And then it's a continuous creation process. I think it's not like you create and that's it, because many times you feel like there's some gaps. If you could just like add this little point here, it would add so much to the course, and go back and forth between these two things. So yeah, that's how I created the course in a nutshell, I think.
That sounds really good. I appreciate that. So now people online can create courses about all sorts of different topics that have nothing to do with Unity or game dev. But one of the challenges that I found is when you're creating a Unity related course, I think it's quite natural to offer a sample project that goes along with it. I know in your course, which I've taken, there's a sample project with it. So as you were planning, how did you think about, well, what's the kind of theory, and then what's got to be in the course, and how does the course feed the theory and
the asset, like the sample project and the asset like creation? This is actually where the main idea was around. This is like because of whatever is available out there, because I've been thinking a lot whether to hire a 3D artist to build the entire environment and give it to the audience or to the students. And then it was like, also I could see what is available out there and just give them these free things and build upon that. And I searched and I found it's like a lot of things weren't finally defined until I found the Village URP asset. I wanted to create an HDRP project. Since it's a filmmaking thing, you want to create a high definition render pipeline project to have the highest quality. But then this Village URP demo, it's so good, but it's URP. So I was thinking to take whatever is out there and like add everything that is out there and free, and just like put it in one GitHub project and let users download that. But I think there is a bit of issues about the licensing and the copyrights and so on. So I was like, well, we're going to take the longer route, but it's still at the same time, it's something that will educate even more, because when you go through the asset store, getting models from there, getting animations from Mixamo, importing them, you're still teaching them how to depend on like the content out there and how to import it into Unity, which gave even the course more content and more solid points that would like not only giving them what they need, and then after that they want to create something else, they don't know how. So basically you're teaching them how to fish, not only giving them the fish ready and so on. So yeah, that's and the idea of the course, the short films and all of these things came afterwards. So it was basically reverse engineering what's available and how to build back. And this is like also this one point I talked about in the course about limitation and why it's your best friend.
Very cool. Very cool. It was awesome. So as you mentioned, there's some platforms that you can choose. So from a very high level, as I've done courses in the past, I thought I want to go where the biggest audience is of people who are already looking for Unity content. That tends to be on the Udemy side as one example. And then if you want to create your own website and bring traffic to your own website, you take more ownership of the kind of marketing and audience building there, but you come away with making a higher percentage from every sale. So you can use tools like Thinkific, or create your own website with Shopify behind it or something like that. So lots of different options there, just a few of them to call out. Then a pro tip here is, as you're beginning to think about your course, if you don't already have an audience built up that you can market your course to, it's a great idea. So building up your social media presence, polishing up your typical portfolio package of your LinkedIn, having a resume and a portfolio online somewhere that people can find so that they can see who is the course creator, things like that. Then also building an audience in YouTube, even if that's not where your final content will go, you'll get people who are used to and enjoying video content, noticing you as somebody who is an expert in the area you want to talk about. Then when you go and launch your course on a Udemy or on your own website with Thinkific, you can market to that audience. So how is that process for you? Can you briefly explain, like, did you already have an audience in mind, or is this, you're building your audience starting with this course?
Well, it's in the middle, because I've been doing tutorials on YouTube for, I don't know, for like many years. The only problem is that I didn't build my newsletter earlier on, which is a big mistake that I made. So until like a few months ago, I think, when I started planning the course and announced it, then only I started creating the newsletter, which is something I should have started earlier on. Though I have subscribers on YouTube and like a good following there, but not having a newsletter, it's kind of hard to reach them out. It's like, because YouTube and the new algorithms, you don't have full access, and not everyone would see a notification when you create something. And having a newsletter, it's always the best way to reach the predefined audience directly.
Yeah, and even today, newsletter seems to be recommended by marketing professionals. 10 years ago, people spent more of their day in their email inbox. Today, we're spreading our attention across all different sorts of social media. But the nice thing about the email inbox idea, or building a newsletter, is that you own that relationship more directly. When you do posts on social media, it's up to each platform to decide where your posts go and exactly what you can talk about and stuff like that. So there's benefits to using Facebook, Instagram, etc., YouTube. But having a newsletter, it's really nice. You have a direct connection with your audience. As a bonus idea here, something that I haven't done yet, but as I'm conceiving of new courses in the future, I've been thinking about using crowdfunding as a way to begin the process. So on the one hand, crowdfunding is a way to get money at the beginning of a project to help fund your creation of the project, right? Be it a new game idea or a course idea is what I'm thinking about in my case. But also, you could think of it like getting pre-sales to your course. Here, you're able to create a trailer and the compelling information that gives someone an idea of what your end product will be, but you deliver that publicly way earlier in the process in the hopes that people would be so excited about it, they will pre-purchase your course. So for me, thinking about it as a pre-purchase versus them donating or funding your initiative and stuff like that, it really reminds me that they, as the person investing, they're also your audience. So often the way that crowdfunding works is for everyone who contributes early, there's some rewards that are offered. For example, if you plan to offer a course for $200 online, you could perhaps give people who give you $50 or $100 early a free copy of the course when it comes out. And you could have some levels that are below that, so it's easier to contribute, where maybe they don't get the full course, but they can somehow maybe help pick the topics and areas that you go into, whatever. So I've been exploring that myself. Did you use any crowdfunding for the course that you created?
Nope, but I think it's a really solid idea, especially that having them to pre-purchase would instantly mean that you've gathered your audience, and that's the best way. I mean, like, it's one of the best ways. It's really great. So you have them on board even before you start creating the course.
Yeah, even if you could give them something of value as a small reward, you could look at their small contribution as a potential future sale once the course comes out. So it's almost like you're building that community or that newsletter, but
exactly
through the crowdfunding.
Yeah, with higher commitment. So it's great.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. So let's take a look at your course as an example. I think I've got 5 or 6 slides here which go over the same information that's available on your website where you can purchase the course today, and we'll have that link there at the end. But I just wanted to pull some of the highlights. So as you mentioned, it's a course, Unity Filmmaking 101, and it's available for people to enroll now. So you've told us a little bit about who it's for. Tell us a little bit about the art here, because you've mentioned it, but now that we're seeing a picture, and then remind us who it's for again.
Okay, so what we're seeing here is part of the first project that we will do together, which is a showcase video. This is the Unity's Village URP demo, which is created by Unity, the Unity team, and it's free. And that is the amazing thing about it. It looks
Awesome.
good, and it's free at the same time. So this is the project that we will import. We will create everything around it. So the first project is this screenshot was from the first project where we create a showcase video, like around 30 seconds, I think, flying through the environment to show as a showcase video, but at the same time teaching the basics of camera movement, switching between one camera to the other, and getting more comfortable with the timeline, and then to the exporting from Unity, how to render it out, whether as EXR PNG sequences or video, and then editing that into like in Premiere, and then adding the soundtracks. And also, this is a good thing also, we have 2 soundtracks pre-composed for the students, one for the showcase video and another one pre-composed for the one-minute short film. So basically, who's it for? It's whether you want to try like telling stories, and because the technology today, it's more accessible than ever, and the amount of free assets online is just crazy, and even those are not free are very affordable. So it's for those who want to get into the filmmaking, whether they have experience in making films or games. This is the course where it combines both worlds. I mean, at least for me. And also, even if you want to get into the live action filmmaking, this is also a good start to create it virtually, because especially when starting out, you don't have access to actors, you don't have access to locations, maybe even you don't have a proper camera that simulates or emulates the vision you have in your mind. So with softwares like Unity and like real-time game engines, you can create anything you want with them, and they're real-time. You don't have to wait for it to render and like modify a little bit the lighting and re-render everything. So it's for all of these like talents that want to explore that area.
That sounds awesome. So a couple of the highlights that I found on the marketing material for your site, which I think a couple of weeks ago I did the course and enjoyed it a lot. I think the way that it's structured, from you explain kind of, here's the story making process. Okay, now let's step into the tool and use the tools to tell that story. I think that was very cool.
Thanks.
So just using what we've got on the screen here, can you just talk briefly about maybe 1 or 2 of these points?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, because I want to start from the beginning of the filmmaking with Unity. It's not like we're starting from the very basics of 3D softwares. So having a 3D background is really helpful, and having a background in Unity even more helpful. So basically, we start with the basics of Unity's timeline, how to import stuff from outside, and we go creating the showcase and then the short film. And along these 3 main points over here, we learn about importing characters and their animations from Mixamo, getting assets from the store, and overcoming the pink issue of the materials in Unity. So yeah, it's like they're the main points, and along the way we see a few issues or a few information nuggets that we go through, and tips and shortcuts. So yeah, and the career paths, it's straightforward. Cinematic designer. If you don't know what cinematic designer is, well, cinematic design, it's what this job of those people who create the cutscenes inside of games. So there might be a director, or maybe you could be the director, depending on the team size. But sometimes they have the storyboard, they have the models, the animations, and everything, and you'll be the one responsible into gathering all of these assets into one cutscene. And that's what we did in the course, where we get ready assets from the asset store, and we just combined all of them into this short film. And then a filmmaker, it's straightforward. You already know what filmmaking is. And previous an animatic artist, so maybe you're making a live action or animated movie, but instead of creating a boring storyboard that just like you have to draw all of them, you can create blocking and animatics, previs, and so on, with Unity to indicate the story in a better and more colorful way.
That sounds cool. So some of the course curriculum is listed out here. I thought that the kind of the process of the short film, the setting it up and making the course, as I mentioned before, kind of like the theory, and then, okay, like let's sit down and let's do it. I thought that was a really cool highlight. So as far as like the overall length of the course and how much that you were able to put into it, how did you decide when it was done? You know, like when you covered enough topics?
Well, yeah, that's a tricky question, but it's like I always like objective-oriented and results-oriented teaching methods. Even on my YouTube channel, sometimes you might see a very short tutorial, other times a longer tutorial. But I have like certain objectives that I want the learners or the students to understand by the time we finish the tutorial. And I applied the same thing that I've been doing on my YouTube channel for years into this course, but it's a bigger topic. So I, again, started reverse engineering. By the end of this course, I want them to learn the basics of how to create or tell stories with Unity using the timeline and cameras and so on with objects or available assets out there. And I went from there. It's like, yeah, they have to develop this. Okay, what do they need before that? We need to get comfortable even more with it with a smaller project, which is the showcase project. And before that, even we went through a bit of the basics on how to import things, the different animation interpolation of the camera, like constant ease in, ease out, and so on. And until I thought that it's enough, and I think it's enough. It's unless if audience out there they need more, well, maybe we can cover it in another course or even update this one.
Very
But
cool.
yeah,
that's a cool way to approach it. You've already talked a bit about the theme and you're getting the assets here, so we'll move on. But just to let the audience see the kind of theme and some of the different art and mood here. Thanks for Omar to explain both what's in that course and also how he conceived it. I'll share a couple examples of courses that I've done as well, which are on other Unity topics. So I have a course that's available. My courses are on Udemy as the primary platform. And one is about everything related to Unity physics. You cover Unity 2D physics, 3D physics, and all the scripting that you can do around that. The course goes through videos and sample projects, 2 complete games, one that is a 2D clone of Angry Birds, and another one that is a 3D clone of a classic 80s game called Marble Madness. So all of that content is available there. And I've added to the course, as Omar mentioned, as the audience or the creator of the course notices some gaps in there, you may add new course content. And I've definitely done that with this course, as well as my more advanced course here about MVC architecture for Unity. So one of the challenges when you're on a Unity project is getting the job done, delivering the features to the user is their primary concern. But often on the path there, your project begins to get some spaghetti code, become a bit disorganized, and it's challenging for you to stay in that project for a longer time as an individual, or especially when you bring on some friends and coworkers to work with you. So being able to architect your project from the beginning in a way that is proven and produces some sound, maintainable results is definitely worth the investment. So in this course, we go over design principles, which are the theories behind a lot of software development, including games, design patterns, which are reusable solutions that you can apply to different areas of game dev. And we'll look at how all of that leads us to taking some architectures as that we can approach our projects. Then I go deep into the model view controller architecture, and we look at here we see about 4 examples shown, but I've recently added 10 total examples, including some video coverage. So you can see these examples here in depth as well as a bunch more. In every case, I go through from the beginning and explain kind of the thoughts and theory, especially for these earlier ones here. So you get a lot of exposure to see how you can take a simple project and make it more maintainable and scalable. So those courses are both available. Omar's course and my course, there will be a link below the video, so you can check that out later. So that is it for our talk here. I want to give a special thanks to Omar for coming and for sharing his expertise. So Omar, as you say goodbye, what else would you like to tell us about your course or your consulting?
Yeah, well, first to just like to sum up with, or at least to end the thoughts of why everyone should also create courses. Well, first and foremost, teaching is a noble thing that you should do, whether as a course or teaching, because, and also I wrote an article about why everyone should teach, because even if you don't have the opportunity to practice or to do what you learned, at least when teaching that knowledge, you don't lose it. And also you get to practice it by teaching others the knowledge that you have. And of course, if you want to get into filmmaking, please let me know. I really enjoy talking with people about creative stuff, about creative thinking and all of these interesting stuff. If you'd like to collaborate or work with me, you can check out my website or my email. I'm also available for remote work and consultations, and always happy to help. And thanks, Sam, for the time and effort and for the great stuff you're putting out there.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks very much. And the links that you mentioned for contact, I'll put below the video. Awesome. So thanks from me as well. Again, I'm a Unity game developer with lots of experience. I'm focusing on education. So this type of topic that Omar and I talked about today, creating educational content, sharing what you know with the world, considering it that could be an additional revenue stream from you. Also, as budding game developers who want to create your own indie projects, you can look at these additional revenue streams as a way to, you can fund your own game development. So by looking at maybe tools development as one way, course creation as we're talking about here, that can help fund your dream projects as well. So it's another way to stay close to the game dev roots that you have, still be able to contribute. So my courses are available here. I'll put the link below, and I'm also available for remote contract hire. Still for dev as well, but I definitely focus on education more, doing on-site and online training for everything related to Unity. So that's it from both of us. Again, Omar, thanks very much.
Thank you so much.